Adam, Scott Lycett, what was it behind that decision to get him out of the side?
He's just not playing well enough at the moment. So he's 22, he's a ruckman. We've been playing with 2 rucks against teams that play 1. So we think we need to get an advantage there, and we're not getting as much as we'd like. So look, we've still got him in our plans, and it's still part of his progression, but he needs to go back and get some solid form. And Cal Sinclair's been knocking on the door and provides a bit of flexibility as well. So we've gone with Cal this week.
You're not worried about Scott's development at all then? It was just sort of part of it, backward step, and then he goes back forward?
Oh yeah, look, these things happen to developing players. So it's not ideal for Scott, but I think in the big picture, in the long run, it'll help him.
The fact that you've tried Sinclair in defence a little bit, and they have 2 very good young forwards, and you may need an extra tall, is that a factor in you coming in as well?
Yeah, definitely. Young Stewart as well, he's 196 centimetre tall, so we're still trying to find ways to combat tall forward lines, and Cal might be one of those. So he provides with a little bit of flexibility.
You spanked them here, reamed them here.
Come on, you can't.
Last year, do you have to disregard that given their development? Is that almost an irrelevance?
I think so. They're the most improved team from last year. Their position on the ladder, their form, their confidence. So we're not looking at round 8 last year, that's for sure.
So what have you noticed in them? You say they're most improved. What new things have you noticed of them as opposed to 2-3 years when they were the easy beats?
Evolution of their talent, good coaching. They're well run, well drilled, and you can see the good players coming through. You know, they've got a lot of high-end talent, but they've also got some grunt as well. So we're not afraid of it, but we're aware of their improvement, and they look confident.
Luke, show your fitness test as well.
Yeah, he got through. Yeah, we've got a few players who had to tick a few boxes today, but all of them are available.
Was Matty Rosa a victim of the 6-day break, or was it worse?
Just a tight back. It's a 5-hour flight, 6-day break. We just didn't want to take a risk with. He's been one of those players who doesn't travel well, and same with Jackson Nelson, his first-year player, including pre-season. There's 7 or 8 games in a row, and he's just starting to show signs. So we thought we'd preempt a possible injury with him as well.
You said he was arrested.
Yeah, he won't play at East Perth.
Is Luke Shuey a certain starter, or do you have to wait and see how he pulls up tomorrow?
At this stage, he's a certain starter, unless he doesn't pull up well tomorrow. But yeah, we've got, we're going to have to carry over a couple of players just in case. But I think they've all trained today and got through. So unless there's something that happens overnight, we think they're all going to be right.
Who else did you have a look at this morning? So fitness, you said there was a couple of guys that you wanted to have a look at.
Oh, look, I won't go into the details, but there's 6-day break. You got to leave it to the last minute with some guys to get up. So, but everyone's going to be 100%.
Is Rosa just 1 week?
I think so. Yeah.
And 6-day break trip to Brisbane, that seems to happen to West Australian clubs.
Does it?
Regularly.
I've noticed that. Yeah.
Do you should there be something in the fixtures where if you take a trip of that length, that your break is 7 days?
Yeah, I'm not one to complain about the draw or the travel that we have, but you'd think the longest flight in AFL would back up with a decent break. But look, we come off a 6-day break after round 1 in Melbourne, and finished the game off really strongly there. So we're not too worried about it. But in the planning of the fixturing, you'd hope you think you get a bit of a break there, but it's not something I'm worried about at all.
What's the major danger with the Giants? Is it their midfield? Is it their tall forwards? What do you think?
Oh, look, it's a combination of all, to be honest. They've been rebounding really well off half-back, and their clearance work and spread of talent, and obviously they've got a good forward line that can finish off the job. McCarthy's really come on this year. He's had 19 shots at goal in 4 rounds, and Cameron, we all know him. So, and then Stewart's starting to provide another option as well. So, and then you've got young Smith, who's been performing really well as a high half forward. So we're really aware of what they do. Can we stop it? That's the next challenge, and also play our way.
You mentioned the grunt in the midfield. Is that something you've had to specifically warn your players against? Because I guess when they last played these guys, it was almost like a team still playing very young players, but there is a lot of strength and grunt through the middle, and Griffin and obviously Ward playing as well as he has there, that just adds to the
Yeah, we can't look at last year. Mumford didn't play, Griffin wasn't there. They were missing a number of players, so they were really vulnerable last time. They're coming over quite confident and up and about, so we're really looking. I think it's going to be a really good game.
So when you first came over last year, you talked about your time at Hawthorn. You used to come over here and how tough it was playing against teams here at Subiaco. You really wanted to make this a ground that you sort of owned again, or the Eagles owned again. How's that going with? I know you've had injuries, which obviously create concerns. Are you happy with the way the teams, the way they understand and use Subiaco?
Yeah, well, I think the advantage is obviously still there with the travel. Teams really prepare well now, and gone are the days where it was just fly over a couple of days earlier and hope for the best. I think the way that teams, all clubs, prepare with interstate travel is elite. So the advantage that you might have had 10 years ago just with players not preparing well are gone, and the ground size too is you train it when you're interstate. You find a ground that's long and skinny, and you really plan and prepare. Albeit, I think it's still a tough trip, and it's if not the toughest in the comp. But you've got to turn up and play, and you've got to have a good, consistent side that knows how to play this ground. So we're working on that. That's not new. It's been here since we started. So, and I'm sure Fremantle are the same.
Adam, can I just ask you about Jack Darling? It was never definitive, and it was always pretty loose. But you sort of talked around about round 5, 6, 7, and the injury list says it's going to be a fair bit longer than that. How's he going?
Trained today, yep. First session with the group, so he's now training with us, which is really, really good for him. But no guarantees on that. I think he's got to build his base up, and we're not going to do it in a quick fashion. So we'll give it however long it takes before he's ready. But he's training with the group now, so I would have thought weeks, not months.
So in a normal course of events, no setbacks, and you can ramp him up, ready to play in 2 to 3 weeks. That's a realistic possibility.
He's pushing. I'm pushing. The medical staff is pushing patience. So we've got to get it right. So we don't want to bring him back any earlier than he should be. So whenever he's ready and his body tells us he's right to go, and the medical department ticks it off, we'll start planning for that. Now we can start planning for that progression now.
And Scooter, how's he going?
Yeah, he's the same. He should be 2 or 3 weeks away, maybe even shorter. So I think in the next month we should get some players back and available, and hopefully bolster our side.
Can you talk us about, apart from Sinclair, the other inclusions, Bennell and McGinnity, what do they bring that you want in your team this week?
Oh, look, Bennell's been probably a victim of Jackson Nelson's consistent effort, and he's been available every week but hasn't been able to fit in the side. So there's a bit of depth there with our running half-backs, so I would assume he'd be in that position, given that Nelson needs a rest. And McGinnity, we know what we're going to get from him. So the one thing we've lost in the last couple of months is the grunt, and the guys who really stand up. So that's been a real challenge for their playing group at the moment, to fill the void of McKenzie and Brown and Selwood and Darling and these guys. So we're getting a lot of growth in that area, and McGinnity is at the front line when it comes to that type of player. So that's what he's in for.
He's also a defensive forward, and you talked a bit about the bounce they're getting from the back. Does he get a role on a Heath Shaw or something?
Please, come on. I've been here a year now. They've got some really damaging rebounding players that we need to put some time into. They've also got some really damaging high half forwards that help their midfield as well. So we can't lose what we do well and what we need to do with our defence and our forward line and the pressure we can supply as a team. That'll be our focus, and the players that get away from us we'll have to give some attention to if we need to.
How did Jeremy McGovern pull up? How's his week been? Because he had the knee the week before. And all good?
Yeah, really good. Yep, he can't feel it. It's back to, he's fine. So we dodged a bullet there. Big bullet.
Just stringing back-to-back wins together, important for the team and the group to move forward in that sense?
Yeah, look, playing a home game against a team that comes over quite confident. We like to think that we're in a good space with our performance on the weekend. We rebounded well after a disappointing first quarter against Fremantle. I think in the next 2 or 3 weeks we'd find out a lot about ourselves and where we're at for this year.
Getting back to Scott, do we forget how long it takes with young players, particularly big blokes?
I think with Scott you do. Yeah, he's a developing ruckman. There's not many 22-year-old ruckmen running around locking down their position every week. And if we're going to play 2 rucks in our side, they've got to be able to produce as forwards as well. So, look, he hasn't been too much off, but we need it to be an advantage, not just a position that they share. So, I mean, a lot of teams are playing 1 ruckman.
Can you talk a little bit about the Nat Nui Mumford duel as ruckmen that have an impact at ground level after the knock? They're probably pretty close to the 2 best.
Similar, yeah. They haven't played against each other since Sydney in 2013. So both very combative and really good follow-up ruckman. So it'll be a good challenge for Nick. I think Nick's really stood up this year. We played some serious ruckman in the last 4 weeks, and we get it again this week.